So, Andrew, I won't waste any more time. Your opening statement, please.
Yeah, thanks for doing this on such short notice, Sarah. I appreciate it. I only had one day. I'll thank my opponent too. I only had one day really where I could get this squeezed in, so I'm glad you guys were able to both accommodate me. So I'll dive in with my opening statement first. One of the most hilarious phenomenon of our time that our future ancestors are going to look back on and laugh about uh, is how we prioritize the whims and wants of absolute fucking morons. Our society operates backwards. It's not just counterintuitive, it's just really fucking stupid. So, in a rush for feminist egalitarianism, we essentially collectively lost our minds. I'm going to hit you with some facts right now that my opponent is going to be forced to agree with because they're all just objective reality, every one of them. In order to provide a healthy society, let's take a bird's eye view for a second and pretend that we're playing a game of Sim World, United States Edition. We want to prioritize a healthy, happy, robust society with security for its people. In order to do this, we count on the fact that families can live on a single income, have job security, that mothers will be treated correctly due to their matron status in society, and the glory that comes with it, and that fathers, the protectors and providers, are obeyed and in a position to make decisions based on the general health and welfare of their genetic prodigy and the immortality that they will receive through their children. Traditional gender roles. That kids will be reasonably educated before they pick a trade or a husband, and that little Susie and Johnny will live happily ever after, riding off into the sunset. That's what you, the player of this game, are supposed to accomplish. And you accomplish it. After 100 hours of intensive gameplay, there it is, the Great Society. Then your little brother comes home from college, a full blown progressive, and picks up the fucking game. And within 10 hours of playtime, he manages to make it so women become debt slaves. Laws are unequally yoked towards the provider class. You spend 5% or more on education of your entire GDP. Um, and the people who you produce can barely read. And on top of all of that, your society can no longer reproduce because he shifted their prime reproductive years to career establishment. Suddenly, your divorce rate's sky high, single mother families are out of control, the entire population is obese, and mental health is at an all time low. And you ask him, what the fuck did you do? How? How did you manage to accomplish this great feat of destruction in only a few hours' time? And he says, nothing, bro. I just took the weaker sex, which can reproduce, and put them in the roles of the stronger sex who can't, so it was fair, and sprinkled a bunch of gay shit in for funsies. And now you got to spend 200 hours getting the society back to normal. That little bastard. Well, that little bastard lives everywhere, unfortunately, these days. And that's exactly what progressives did and continue to do to our society. My opponent spent yesterday's debate with Jake Rattlesnake endlessly talking about people's freedom to choose as though they actually have freedom to choose. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's endlessly hilarious and ironic. Women are pushed into being career women so that they can live and are taught from a young age to discount trust in males who just want to SA and exploit them and be ready for a backup plan if this whole marriage thing doesn't work out for them. So they spend their reproductive years in a degenerate institution filled with drugs, alcohol, sex, and abortion. Brilliant fucking plan, by the way. Brilliant plan. Boy, who thought this one up? So that they can get a degree in a field they most likely won't even go into. Mission accomplished, you fucking retards. Well, I offer a different plan. I call this the this is fucking obvious as fuck to everybody except you plan. See, I think the government itself should use top down policies in order to propagandize the intact male female family unit, providing incentives against the breakup of that family, because the social fabric of society itself relies on intact, cross generational, rooted family units to fucking exist, period. The alternative family unit doesn't even need to be legislated against, though I would actually be fine if it was, just heavily stigmatized at an institutional level, and the intact family glorified with great and wonderful propaganda everywhere. It's on the TV. It's in the kids' shows, just like all the gay stuff. It's in the commercial breaks. It's on all the YouTube ads. It's in everything, everywhere you look, all the time. What do we get as a society for that? Well, we get stable family units, normalized social expectations, cross-generational wealth, patriotism, unity, high trust communities, a world where pee-wee prisons, also known as public schools, which are actually just publicly subsidized daycare centers, adhere to the parents' wishes because mothers are more invested in their children as they actually stay home with them. A world where the school day is 3 hours instead of 8 or 9, where kids don't have to get up before the sun is out in order to go eat garbage, ready-made food, have very little exercise or social standards applied, as they had to incur a huge amount of problem, and they have to deal with a huge amount of problematic people who they are forced to associate with. Pure insanity. This world allows for a single breadwinner. It doesn't even bar women from working. It just prioritizes the social class of workers who fulfill their social obligations of reproduction and strong family units. Every incentive for the traditional role here makes for a better, more stable, and ultimately stronger society. Tradition, definitionally, I would say, means experiments that worked. Well, we have the progressive experiment, and it's a fucking nightmare where we can't even reproduce our own societies. What we do produce is mental illness, tons of obesity, a population of sick people, and due to the aging population of women, giving birth to a whole new line of autistic children, which is becoming a public health crisis due to all the over 30s having children. Absolute madness. Not to mention the rise of infant mortality since the only time, by the way, since the advent of antibiotics, we see a rise in infant mortality due to the Lincoln age and chronic illness, which is often associated with age. This question is a no-brainer. It's literally simple. We have thousands of years of history supporting my view of gender roles, and it worked well. We have 70 years of feminist trash, and it's a social death sentence. There are just some of my issues, but I can't wait to dive into all of them. Few other conditional gripes. Letting 18-year-olds vote, really fucking stupid, right? You actually have to be really a fucking idiot to want to allow 18-year-olds to vote. Also, letting most people vote is equally fucking stupid. Reinforcing narratives to women to delay reproductive years is really fucking stupid. Trying to interchange men with women is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And finally, so I said yesterday, just a nitpick. Well, a woman can defend if a criminal gets a criminal with a gun, just like a man, if the criminal's unarmed. It's like, yeah, sure. But I guess by that logic, so could a 10-year-old. It's still really fucking stupid. It's really stupid. Basically, all of Soy's positions are just kind of stupid. I'm basically going to rip all of them to shreds very quickly as he tries to clip farm with ad homs, because I'm just going to tell you, these people never have good arguments. They never have good arguments for any of this because it's blatantly obvious. With that, we can move over to Soy's opening statement.
Thank you, Andrew. And Soy Pill to you, please.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming, Andrew. I wanted to watch Andor today, but it seems like this is the only day you could do it. So forgive me for my lack of sleep from last night doing this for 6 hours. Let's do it for another 3 or 4. I think gender roles are societal pressures put upon men and women that promote behaviors that most of us would agree are good and shame people who don't follow those behaviors. I don't think they're holistically bad because obviously promoting things like independence, strength, or ambition are good things. But I don't like that by making these behaviors gendered, we're excluding swaths of the population. I don't think that women should be shamed or turned away from pursuing a career or being independent just because of some traditional role of subservience. And I don't think men who want to stay at home should be shamed for taking care of the family. Ultimately, I think that we can take the good that gender roles provide and move to promoting them as universal virtues. The utility that they provide should not be limited to half of the population. If women want to choose to be trad wives and that makes them happy, good for them. If men want to work out and do 6-hour gender debates for a living, they should. In regards to Andrew's opening, I reject the premise that every single metric of bad can be attributed to a lack of traditional gender roles. And I think the biggest flaw in Andrew's argument is going to be that he's fighting for an unsustainable society that in history has just led to the things that he claims to hate. If you look at the way that we implemented abortion and restricted women, it led to feminism because people crave choice. Promoting traditional gender roles seems to be a fruitless effort that is fighting against the human desire of freedom of choice, and enforcing them doesn't seem to lead to their desired outcome. So I'd rather live in a world where people are given the room to make the best for themselves rather than be forced to or pigeonholed into a role that might not suit them. And then just a couple last little points here. I think I want my 10-year-old to be able to defend my house, and I support everyone's right to vote. And it's funny that you have that opinion because you are a self-admitted average IQ person. So I guess you would not be included. So let's get into it.
I mean, gentlemen, the floor is open to you.
Yeah. So it's,
Andrew, I would.
well, hang on. I just want
Yeah.
to clarify one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Did I say anywhere in the opening statement that you would judge voting based on IQ?
No, you didn't. I just
then that's a
assumed.
really fucking stupid argument right off the gate from you. So
Okay,
basically,
cool. So
admitting
let's
you
talk about
straw man.
gender
Hang on,
roles
hang on. I
then.
just want to make
we
sure
don't
that we
have to
clarify
dive
that
into
you
your stupid
straw man.
hypothetical ball.
I just want to make sure that you straw man. Hang on.
Okay, I
I just want to make sure that you admit
I assume
Gentlemen,
you
just
straw
a
manned my
second.
position.
Both of
We're
you
talking
stop.
about
Both
IQ.
of you stop. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let Andrew run his line of questioning. Okay, we'll go about 5 minutes, and then Soy Pill, if you want to run one back, and that way we don't get all crossfired here.
I'm going to interrupt.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So can you just admit you
Understood.
straw man my position for no good reason?
I admit it. I thought that maybe you
There
were
you go.
implicating, excuse me, that it should be based on IQ. I bet it's based on something else. I apologize.
Yeah. Do you think that it would be okay then if for the rest of the debate we don't straw man each other's positions, but actually try to contend with them?
I'll do my best, but if you say something stupid, I might imply that something else stupid you might believe, and then you can correct me like that. So
I never say anything stupid.
I've begged to differ. I've watched a lot of your debates. How would you define gender
Well,
roles?
it's amazing,
Because
'cause you're
I
about to
tried to
lose-
kind of
you're about
define
to
them
lose
at the
this one.
beginning,
ahead.
and I don't know if you would accept my definition, but do you think that a gender role is simply like a thing that like men do, or do you think a gender role is like a societal expectation of men?
Neither. I tie a gender into virtues. And so I
Yeah,
think
that's sort of what I do.
No, I don't think it is what you do. Give me your definition of gender.
Well, my gender roles idea was the idea that we're kind of pressuring a man or a woman to do a certain thing and like promote a good behavior or a virtue, if you will. I just think that these things don't need to be gendered. So
No. There's necessary virtues. And here, your universal claim actually is it fails on its own merits immediately. There is a thing women can do, men can't. What's that called?
Give birth.
Yeah, so then there's going to be all sorts of virtues which are entailed around this idea.
What's the virtue of giving
Hang on,
birth?
can you chill for a second?
Well, no, because you're
There's
going to
gonna
get into the
be-
stupid epistemological
gonna
definitions
be-
thing, and I need to challenge you on the idea that, well, women can give
Yeah,
birth, therefore
I haven't
virtue.
even
I need
given
to
the
stop
argument.
You're
I
going to give
haven't
like
even
16
let's
given
definitions,
the
dude. I need to
argument.
stop you on the
Let's
first one.
do this.
You
Let's do
got to at
this.
least let me give the argument.
Go ahead and give the argument, Andrew.
So anyway,
and
if
then Soy,
it's universalized and Soy agrees and he does that there's something women can do, men can't, which is reproduce, then yes, there's going to be virtues around reproduction, the weaker sex, they would have to adhere to that men would not, or would be more glorified for them that would not be more glorified for men because necessarily men can't give birth.
Okay, cool. So the reason I asked you what your definition of a gender role was because this is something that clearly points out the flaw of your thinking. If you say, hey, all women should give birth, which I don't think is something that you might prescribe, or maybe it is, it's clearly just not something I think that we should promote. I think a lot of women can't give birth. I think that plenty of women should have the right to choose not to give birth. And so if you, again, this is why I asked, do you think a thing that men do is a gender role? I mean, do you think that the Navy SEALs is a gender role? Because if you do, it's a kind of a weird argument to me because it's such a small subset of the population. This isn't a societal pressure to tell men to be Navy SEAls. It's a thing that exclusively men can do.
Yeah, I mean, so you actually said a lot there, but you didn't say anything. But I'll untangle both things, and I let you give your
Untangled to nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll untangle both your arguments. First,
Go.
I didn't say it's a duty of all women to reproduce. Obviously, all women can't reproduce. All men can't be in the protector class either. They could have all sorts of deficits. They could have bad spines. They could have bad knees. They could just be physically handicapped and unable to do it. But that wouldn't be the virtue we would be applying there. All women should be moving towards societal reproduction, even if they themselves can't reproduce, meaning they shouldn't have antinatalist rhetoric. They should also be performing at all levels to try to assist in the idea that society should be reproducing. That would be virtuous. That would be part of a virtue, which you would consider a feminine virtue, a virtue which surrounds them. For instance, midwives don't have to be able to give birth, be great midwives, right? Or assist their friends who are pregnant, things like this. This would be something which would be more virtuous from the standpoint of women and women's health and women's health functions than the alternative. Same with the protector class. You don't need to be able to be a protector yourself in order to tell men that they're failing in their duties of protecting their family. Again, that would be highly virtuous. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to gain parity through monolith, which is actually a logical fallacy. It's a fallacious argument on its base to say all of anything, something else. That never works. It's fallacious on its face. So No, and nobody's making those claims. We're talking about virtues themselves.
Okay, good. No, if you're not making that claim, it's good because I don't agree with that claim. And so then I would ask, you say, okay, we're promoting natalism, or people who can't give birth, women who can't give birth should promote their friends who can give birth. They should be midwives. Is there anything that's excluding men from promoting this at all? Like, is there any reason we should say men shouldn't do this? Is there any reason women shouldn't be promoted to protect their family given the full extent of their capabilities? Like, this is
so this is a great question. So when it comes down to a physiological virtue, women can give birth, men can't, right? This also becomes a nature of a virtue that women exclusively have the dominion over. I would argue, and the opposition is, well, I mean, you don't even disagree. Your pro-abortion argument is literally going to be that women have dominion over their body, health choices, things like this.
I didn't make that argument. What? I thought we weren't strawman.
Yeah. So you did last night. You did last night when abortion was brought up.
Okay, that's fair, but I didn't make it in this debate, and I'm a different person today.
So 24 hours later, you changed your position?
Hey, maybe I read an article or something. Just don't strawman me, okay?
Yeah,
I watched
not a straw man.
I implied that maybe you like higher IQ people.
Okay. But anyway, so that wasn't a straw man. That was me saying what your position was at least just a few hours ago. That seems like the opposite of a straw man.
You think I'm pro-abortion because women have domain over their bodies?
It would be.
It was not my opinion on abortion.
Oh,
so maybe you weren't listening very well.
So why should women be able to have abortions?
I just think it's better for society when they do. I think when you restrict abortion, historically, you see what happens, and it just doesn't work out the way you want it to. I think it's funny. Rachel, your wife, I think, brought up this case in Romania in 1960s where they banned abortion, and the rate of births went up. But then very frequently after, the illegal deaths from abortion, illegal abortions went up by like 9,000, and the birth rate dropped again. I just don't see this panning out as something that we can do, even if you wanted it to happen, which I don't. So I just don't think you can prescribe or enforce abortion laws in a way that people will accept.
So, okay. So you don't have a moral ought for why women ought to be able to have abortions other than just like
I do, but I just don't want to have an abortion argument about whether
I'm just saying I'm not strawmanning your position. Your ought is only going to be based around autonomy. It can't be based around anything else.
As opposed to, wait, I'm confused. You're saying I must be basing it on autonomy because if I don't, then I must be
because you wouldn't have another argument for it otherwise for your worldview. It would have to be based around autonomy. Yeah, of course. All right. So I'm right. So it's no straw man. So anyway, the point is that ultimately, though, when you're talking about men, when it comes to things which are exclusive duties of men, which basically is the domain of men, that's going to be the protection at class. So what men, if you look at bird's eye view again of all nations in the world, they're all a bunch of competing tribes. Right? All of these competing tribes are competing over resources. It's men's jobs to procure, refine, distribute resources, and they're the protector class at the same time. Those are the things in which are viewed, and that's the way that we're going to view virtues. If men are acting as though men are supposed to be acting, those virtues are going to line up with what men's capability can be exclusively versus what women's capability can be exclusively.
So again, if we're talking about like the vast majority of men are not protectors of the country. The vast majority of men are not providers of the resources.
That's fundamentally untrue. I'll actually demonstrate this for you.
Well, I mean, majority of men. First of all, I thought we weren't interrupting, but I mean, literally percentage-wise, this is like less than 1% of the population defends the country, and then 1 in 10 of people in. Yes, what are you fucking talking?
No, it's not true.
Are you talking about they're the protector class because they're strong and therefore their duty is to protect the household? Because that's very different from protecting.
Are you going to let me make the counter argument or not?
I don't know. You keep interrupting me, so I'm going to keep interrupting.
I thought you were done with the argument. Tell me when you're done with the argument. I'll give you the counter argument.
My argument is that the vast majority of men do not involve themselves in the military. It's like 1 in 10 of the people that are conscripted, which is already less than not conscripted, just in the military, is less than 1% of the population. Only 1 of 10 of those people actually see combat. So the idea that this is like a male gender role, which is like the whole point. That's why I'm asking about this definition. Why call this a male gender role if it's not something that most men do? And that's why I said at the beginning, a male gender role is something I think that we're pushing men into. I don't think we're pushing most men or most people into joining the military. So why would you call this a male gender role?
Yeah. So I didn't say the military exclusively is. I said the protector class is. You strawman me again because you were having an argument last night about
the military. Well, if all of your definitions are so vague that you can just say
they're not vague. They're very. In fact, they're so precise.
Give me the very precise definition of what the protector role is, please.
As to remove vagueness. I'm going to give you example after example of it right now.
No, don't give me an example. Give me the definition of the protector role.
Okay, and I'll give you a definition of protector if you want that afterwards. Right.
Please.
In fact, here I'll take a second. We'll pull up an exact definition of the word protector.
Well, you don't have one?
You feel good. I'm sorry.
You
Should
can't.
I
You can't
use?
tell me. You can't tell me
should
your
I
like what the
use-
definition of the
do
word
I-
that your entire argument is based off
Tell
is.
what's the definition of the word grape?
Grape?
Grape.
Well, I'm not arguing about grapes, so I
What's
didn't
the
actually
definition
study
of
up
that
on the
word?
grapes.
What's the
What's
definition of it?
of the word
Yeah,
grape?
don't. It's
What's the
very. It's
definition of-
always.
You can
it's always
deflect with these
very
weird
low
word
tier.
games, dude, but you don't know what
Well,
protector
it's
rule is. I'm
always-
asking you what the
Gentlemen,
protector
do
class
we
is.
want
You can't
to
even
do
fucking
the
define it.
definition?
Like, this is embarrassing.
So yeah, so I'm giving you the
Gentlemen, do we want
definition that
to-
you
No,
requested.
you're googling the definition
When
of
you
protector,
ask-
dude. Just
should
tell
I
me
give you
what
a
you think the
proprietary?
protector is. You can't
Why
just
do I-
give me
Gentlemen,
examples.
Yeah,
Just tell me what it
dude,
is.
you
Gentlemen,
have
I'm
to let
going
me
to
respond or I
kindly
can't.
ask you to stop
okay.
for just a second, please. Thank you. Okay, Andrew, if you could provide your definition, I don't care where it comes from.
It's always very low tier. People will request that you give them proprietary definitions because they want to nitpick a proprietary definition instead of having concise semantics. Why in the world would you not want me to give you a specific, hyper specific, and concise definition which is not proprietary,
Because
sir?
you and I both know what protecting means. I'm asking you what the
Why are you
protector
asking me
cla-
for the
I'm
fucking
asking you what's the
definition,
protector
dude?
class.
It's
Do you
fucking
think-
stupid.
Do you think that women shouldn't protect their children?
Yes, of course, but that has nothing to do
You think-
with this.
you
So
think
let me
women
make
should
the
protect their children?
argument.
Sorry,
Let
you
me
said
make the
shouldn't?
argument. I'm not done making the argument. Let me make the
Okay.
argument.
Go ahead.
So, okay, a person, if you want a historical definition or you want a current definition, which type of definition do you want?
I want the definition that you use to inform your worldview about what men should be.
Okay. Defender, guardian, those things work? Or do you want something more concise?
Great. So this is why I didn't think you needed to defend it, because that is pretty obvious, right? It's like defender,
Mhm.
guardian, right? Is this an exclusively male thing?
Yeah, well,
You disagree
prioritized
that women should defend.
prioritized for
Prioritized.
virtue. Yeah, prioritized for virtue. Yes. Just like it's
What do
not
you mean
exclusively
prioritized?
for, hang on, it's not
Well, I
exclusively.
need to know what you mean, 'cause you just
bro.
I don't
If
understand
you
what
don't,
prioritized for
if you don't allow for the argument, if you will actually allow the arguments, I'll allow yours.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
That would be great.
So
Thank you.
here's the argument. The argument's based around not concisely what every individual person can do. We don't structure society based on monoliths like that. In fact, from a political perspective, anytime you take a political action, it's going to necessarily take away from one group to give to another, or somebody's going to be isolated in some way. We literally don't look at virtues that way either. We wouldn't say that because you have no capacity to participate in the virtue, that is still not under the dominion of this group or that group, because it is. And when we're talking about a protector class, we're going to start at the home. The protector class starts at the home with a father's duty to protect his family. They get on the lifeboats first. There's no real other reason for him to put them on the lifeboats first, except that he's the part of the protector class starting immediately. And this goes from there. It's also their job to participate community watch, to assist in the affairs of people who are downtrodden, who are being victimized. They have duties to do these things too. They should be kind of exclaimed as being cowards. If there's a daytime abduction of women, they do nothing about it, right? They're kind of going to be looked at like that, as well they should be. And you can kind of expand this all the way out into the idea of military, of course, police officers, of course, prison guards, of course. All aspects of security and society are the domain of men. Because you could point to some women who can participate in that has no bearing whatsoever on the fact that that is the group which is responsible for the social security of society, period.
Okay, so the reason I interrupted is because you just talked for 2 minutes and said basically nothing, because I need to understand what you mean by domain. Because if all you're saying, if that entire thing can be summarized as, hey, there are places that men have a majority of participation in, then like, what am I supposed to argue with? This is just factually true. If you're saying that we should promote men into doing these things because they already are there, I don't think I agree with that. If we say, hey, people who are capable and eligible and have the merits to accomplish these things and the best people for those jobs should go into those, yeah, fucking obviously. That's why I think, yeah, men should be Navy SEALs, because they're the only people who can meet the meritocratic requirements of the Navy SEALs. That just doesn't mean that we should say, hey, all men, you should be Navy SEALs. And yeah, we should tell everyone that they should protect their family to the fullest extent of their capabilities. Now, men on average are going to be stronger. So yeah, if you're in a situation where I had to choose, hey, should I let the stronger person protect or the woman protect who isn't as strong? Of course, I'm going to pick the stronger person. But we're talking about what we're prescribing and trying to force people into, or try to at least incentivize people into. And I haven't heard yet why we should incentivize anyone into anything other than, yeah, there might be natural places to which they fall based on certain biological imperatives, but I just don't understand what you're getting at with it. Oh, this is the domain of men, therefore, or this is the domain of men, gender roles. Are you just saying the gender role of men is that they are men and men do this? Like, you really haven't really explained that.
This is really funny. So first, we start with the idea that you were asking me questions and inquiring about my worldview. And then you had semantic arguments about those things. And so we were arguing about those things. You have not asked me for these specific arguments yet, which I laid out in my opening statement, which support my worldview. So of course we haven't gotten to that yet. But when you also made a fallacy again, you made a fallacious counter argument here. You said, of course, it is the case that only men should be Navy SEALs, right? Only men. That doesn't mean I want all men to be Navy SEALs. Who the fuck said anything about all men being Navy SEAls? That's absurd.
That would be
fallacious.
Dude,
I didn't interrupt you once.
I know, but you should.
So anyway, it's fallacious. It's fallacious on its face to even say that. It's just a fallacious argument. It's silly. It's stupid. Doesn't contend with anything that I said. Now, if you want supporting evidence for why it is that we want men and to prioritize men into these positions over women and women in certain gender roles in society over men, I'm happy to get in to those
I'm just
things.
Curious
Let's
if you
start
contend
first
at all
with
with what
this.
I'm saying, which is
What
that
is
we
it?
shouldn't have gendered roles insofar as pushing people to do something because of who and what they are. If you want to,
I disagree.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I don't think that we should push men into childbirth because they can't give childbirth, right? So we shouldn't push them to do that.
Again, if we're talking about biological imperatives, I don't think we need to push women into childbirth.
Wait. No, that's a different claim. That's a different claim. I'm sorry, sir. Can you answer this question?
Should we push men into childbirth?
We push men into
interesting
sir?
question, sir. No, I don't believe we should. However, I do think
well,
if
that
there was an
sounds
issue with replacement rates, that we should promote people to have more children. And if you're going to say, well, it's a gender role for women to give birth because women can give birth, this is just a tautological circular argument that doesn't mean anything.
It's not a tautology.
It's a tautology to say that the role of woman is that they're women.
No, that's not.
No,
that would be a tautology. My argument's not a tautology. It is not tautological for me to say that there's one gender role that women can perform that men cannot, which is
again. But this goes back to what your definition of gender role is.
Gender specific. It's gender specific.
What is it? Yeah. So is Navy SEALs. Is that a gender role?
Well, no. You could even say that. That when it comes to Navy SEALs, maybe one day there'll be a woman Navy SEAL, right? But there's never going to be a day where men are giving birth, is there?
What if men get womb transplants? We're already there.
No, we're not already there. And
are
we there?
Literally just had this like a week ago.
I'll tell you what, when we get to that future, you can make an argument based on that. But you can't right now, can you?
This is silly, and this is what I'm saying is like this isn't
That's
a
not
thing
silly.
that all women do. You're talking about, okay, well, I'm rejected the monolith. Okay, cool. So then I'm asking, because I said that gender roles are a thing that society prescribes.
But that is a monolith.
Right. So I'm saying if society is prescribing that a gender do this, that's what a gender role is, then is society prescribing? Yeah, society shouldn't prescribe that men give birth. I agree, obviously, because men aren't giving birth.
Because it makes no sense, right?
Right. And you can say, hey, I think that women should have or I think women should have more babies, or I think more women should have tradwives. Like, I'm not going to say you shouldn't be able to have that.
This is a really good point. And this you're kind of refuting yourself. Let's say for a second that there were artificial wombs that you could transplant into men. Don't you think women would still be better at that role?
I don't know. I mean, men are better at women at most things. We'd probably be better at giving birth.
How?
Because we figure out a way to be better. I don't know. I'm just being
cold.
Yeah. So I mean, can you answer in good faith?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you think biologically, obviously biologically, women have the pre-built tools for it. But I think if the science overcomes that, we might be better at it. I think there's definitely ways that we could have these womb transplants that make it so that we don't have all the risks that women go through. That already there's a lot of scientific advancements that make it so that women don't die as often in childbirth. And maybe by the time we have artificial wombs, it's 100% guaranteed that not a single man will ever have any pain or anything from this womb transplant, and they can just give birth better. It could very well be the case. And then I would say, you know what? No woman should give birth because it's just 100% in every case more dangerous than a biological man.
So in a technocratic potentialized future where there's artificial wombs, in that case, you would say this is not a gender role. But right now, you have to admit 100% is a gender role, right? Exclusive gender role.
What is a gender role?
We just went over this, but
I don't think a gender role is a thing that only exclusively a gender can do. I think a gender role is something that we're promoting everyone in society to do in general, and that we're shaming them for not doing.
So
right, that's the gender role.
Promote. So don't we promote in society that women give birth?
In some ways, yes, but I don't think my point is that we should be like a whole debate whether or not traditional gender roles should exist in society. I don't think we should be shaming women for not giving birth, and I think they should have the choice to either do that or not do that.
Yeah, so these are expectations. Right? Here's your definition to refer to, but please write it down because I don't want to say it again. There'd be expectations, behaviors associated with a particular gender, based around the notions of femininity and masculinity, which you and I both define, at least by your metric, as some kind of virtue. I think that I use Christian ethics as the virtue form for what feminine and masculine is. So I don't think we're confused about what a gender role is. I think that if it is a set of expectations and behaviors associated with a particular gender, childbirth is definitely going to be a fucking gender role, dude.
Insofar as it's expected of all women, or in general,
no, women? That's okay. Again, expectations, behaviors associated with a particular gender. Definitely, that would definitionally fit childbirth for women. Yes, it would, right? Yeah.
Okay. Do you think
do you agree or disagree? Do you agree or disagree?
I don't agree, because I think it's a subset of the population that's not the way that I define gender roles. Do you think
subset?
Do you think hysterectomies
a subset?
Do you think hysterectomies are a gender role?
No.
Well, only women can get them.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And
actually, that's not true. There could be like a genetic deficiency that a man's born with, where he's born with a uterus, even though he's a male. And so, yes, he can have a hysterectomy. So that's actually not true.
Okay. So then men can give birth?
No.
Well, what about this genetic deficiency?
Even if they had a uterus, they can only go down one of two reproductive pathways, which is why you can't ever impregnate yourself. Not even chimeras can.
What if this genetic
still a reproductive
abnormality let them have an egg, and they somehow put a IVF'd it into this womb that you couldn't give birth?
It's not actually possible due to human physiognomy. You can't have all of the working functional parts that would both have an egg in a womb and the functional testes sperm in order to actually dick yourself down, impregnate yourself, and have your own baby. It's actually physically not possible. Isn't that crazy? But it's true. It's not. And that's why you only have one of two reproductive pathways you can go down, male and female. It's a binary, always has been a binary, including even with intersex. That's still not a third sex. It's not a third sex. Intersex is a set of conditionals which are applied biologically due to various deformities and things like this. But you only have one reproductive pathway. So even if you're intersex, you can only get impregnated via ova or via sperm. That's it. There's still only two.
Thing to me, but okay, it's not important.
No, it's not a third sex.
The reason I keep bringing this back is like
this
idea. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not here to debate whether or not intersex people count as a third thing. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is, look, I think that gender roles are how we like. But I think we can move on to this, because I think you did.
Well, I need you to admit that this is a gender role first.
I just don't. What do you think a gender role is? You say it's an
expectation. Just told you. Okay. Yes. Yes. I'm not expectation and behaviors associated with
gentlemen.
Right? You think it's an expectation of behavior associated with it, right? So you're just like, oh, it's expected that men are protectors, and I'm saying that. First of all,
I'm not talking about men. I'm just only asking you narrowly
about. If you
think
that it's expected that women give birth, let's cede this ground. I think that most people in America will, expect women to give birth and shame women for not giving birth. They'll say, "Hey, like, where's your kids? You're 30. Where are your kids?
Fucking right.
And I don't think that should happen. So
if
you want to say that's a gender role that women should be are right now encouraged and kind of pigeonholed into giving birth, I don't think that should be the case. I don't think they should be forced. I don't think they should be discouraged from not giving birth. So let's cede the ground that it is a gender role, and I'll say I don't think it should be. I don't think it has a place in society that way.
Okay, great. Well, as long as we can see the ground that it is, we can move on from there. So men, hang on. You do agree with me that this is a necessary societal function and men cannot accomplish this?
Sure.
Okay, then can you also agree with me that the security provided by men is a necessary function to the functioning nation of any kind, and that women cannot provide that for themselves?
Sure. It's also a very small subset of men. It's not most.
It's not a small subset. It takes an entire community of men to do this, to build all the infrastructure, to build the weaponry, to build the bombs, to build the death traps, to protect at the home, to protect at the police level, to protect at the institutional security level when it comes to prisoners, when it comes to hunting people down who have done crimes. this is almost exclusively the domain of men.
Yeah, but notice how you had to say almost exclusively because
It doesn't need to be a monolith. It doesn't need a
right,
monolith
and
to
that's
be a
what I'm
monolith.
saying. Well, that's my whole fucking argument is that
Yeah,
if
but your
we can
argument then is
say
fallacious. It's fallacious.
my argument's fallacious because I'm saying, hey, we should give people the
So unless
options
all
to choose
people can
different roles, and
accomplish
we shouldn't
something-
say, hey, men, just because you are
Mhm.
a majority of the protector roles in these places, you must do this, and also women, you can't do this.
No,
That's
no, no.
my
They're
whole
the
argument.
only ones who can do it.
I mean, that's literally isn't true. What do you mean?
Yeah,
the
it is
only
true.
ones who can? Do you mean the only
No,
ones
you
who can be
just
the
ceded
majority,
this
or do you mean
ground.
the only
Hang
ones
on.
who can?
You just ceded this ground. Only men are the ones who can provide the necessary security for a nation. You've already ceded the ground. It's done.
No, I what do you? So when you say only men can do it, you mean were it not for the fact that a majority of men choose to do this, then only men can do it, or do you think that it is that a woman can't
I'll tell you what,
participate in that?
I'll cede this
security?
entire ground right now if you can show me any nation in the history of all of mankind where women have been responsible
No,
for the
obviously
security
this
of the
isn't what
nation.
we're talking about. I'm asking you what you mean when you say only men can do this. I'm saying, well, it's not exclusively men, and it's not all men, so therefore I don't think there should be a gender role.
Because security is revolved around the idea that you're defending against other men, it's always going to exclusively be the domain of men to provide said security. Because women physically
it's not exclusive to the gender, and two, it's not
Yeah,
all men. Which is my whole point about
so wait a second. Okay, so your pedantry here. If you want it rephrased, I can rephrase it so that you feel happy about the pedantry. What I'm saying is that because I would not put anything except giving birth in a monolith. It's the only thing I can think of where you could put it in a exact monolith, though there could be other things too that I just haven't thought of. The idea here still is that it's primarily because it primarily must be men who fulfill those roles. Of course, we're going to incentivize primarily men to fulfill those roles. Why wouldn't we? It makes the most amount of sense in society. And of course, if you tailor virtues around that, that's going to be the best thing for society too.
Right.
Just like women are the only ones, just like women are the only ones who can give birth, us incentivizing them to give birth is probably going to lead to more people. If we incentivize men to do security, right, provide security, refine resources and things like this for the nation, obviously that's going to be real good for the fucking nation. That's why traditional gender roles are so fucking important. That's the argument.
Okay, this is a good faith question. I promise I'm not trying to gotcha. Would you say that if we are somehow able to achieve the same level of men in these roles and doing a great job at it and women in nurturing roles, but we just promoted them agendered in such a way that we said, hey, all the best people who are the best at this should go and do this, would you be okay with that, or must it be traditional gender roles?
Well, what do you mean?
What I mean is my ideal, and what I was trying to say in my intro is that I think we can promote people to make the choices that they fit their, whatever role they intend to fit. I don't think that means we need an egalitarian society where we have 50-50 men in the military and 50-50 men and women in the police force and 50-50 men and women in the nursing sector. All it means to me is that I don't think we should be pigeonholing and restricting people to specific roles and saying, hey, if you do anything other than this, you're not a good person. I think that most people will probably fall into this kind of category that you're advocating for. And I think that's fine if we promote these things and say, look, hey, if you're really strong, if you're capable of doing these things, if you're good at being a protector, go be a protector. And I don't think
wait a second. You think most people are just going to fall into these things naturally?
To some degree, yeah. I think
then what's wrong with promoting them?
Because what happens when you promote and say, hey, if you're not a real man, if you don't do this, you're not a real woman if you do this, we are now excluding swaths of the population and say, hey, you have to do this. And I don't agree with that. And I think,
well, no. You threw in that last thing. You're telling swaths of the population they have to do what? Where was prescriptively you have to do anything ever introduced?
It's that they should, and if they don't,
they should.
And that's why, and I don't think
what's wrong with that?
Shame people for not giving birth.
Yeah, well, but that makes no sense. Your whole worldview is backwards. Here, I'll point it out to you. So you said, well, Andrew, most people naturally fall into this anyway. I say, well, what's wrong with promoting it? You say, well, the people who don't naturally fall into it or the social outliers might get real upset. So what? Fuck them. What's wrong with it?
There's certain categories that most of these people will fall into, like, the strength and the protector thing. I mean, a lot of women are in the workforce. So what is it? Like 46% of American women are now in the workforce. And that seems to be what they're inclined to want to choose.
Why is that good?
Well, it depends on what metric you want to use. Like yesterday, you were talking about China and how their GDP is higher. But I mean, do you want to talk about
that was a refutation to a Wick argument where he was discussing that look at our economy and how great it is because women work. And I'm like, well, okay, but he said all Western nations are like that. They're so great because women work. It's like, well, why don't we take a look at a patriarchal society here, right?
To what degree is China patriarchal? They have a higher women participation in the workforce. They promote like abortions. They have like 26, about the same amount of women in the parliament or in the government. Like,
and what patriarchal society? What's your point?
What makes it patriarchal?
It's patriarchal because it's always necessarily going to be men who are in charge of the parties there, and they are.
In charge of the parties. What do you mean by that?
Means that ultimately men are in charge of everything in China.
But okay, so when I said that 26% of the government is women making decisions
wow.
on how the government works,
wow,
yeah,
amazing.
a quarter. That's a pretty big part of it. Do you not think that that's them in charge of making decisions about how things should go?
No.
Patriarchy is if a majority of men are in charge of things.
Yeah, well, that's literally what it means. It means
Okay.
of the father.
No,
That's
well,
patriarchy.
it means that it's like a male-dominated society. I'm sure we could talk about the spectrum.
Well, I mean, it does, but the
patriarchies
thing is that it means of the father, from the father, and patriarchy itself. It does generally mean men in charge of things, and you just pointed out that men are basically in charge of things in China. Well,
yeah, but if you use
26%
patriarchy
of
for
women,
China and patriarchy for Afghanistan, one of which is much more of a patriarchy, like why even use that word?
Well, now you're just quibbling over degrees, but they're both patriarchies.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous to call these things the same when one has a
I didn't call them
woman Well, it is if you're like, hey, these are both patriarchies, which is ridiculous because you're looking at a country where women are half of the fucking workforce.
Let me show you how stupid this logic is.
The same
if
one man woman up and say they can't do anything.
I'm going to show you how stupid this logic is. If one man's tall and one man's short, are they still men? Are they still both men?
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a second. I don't understand. How can you call them the same thing when there's different degrees of what's going on? That's how dumb the argument is.
Yeah,
they're
if
both
every society,
bro.
Because there isn't a majority of women in any government that is a patriarchy, then yeah, okay, everything is a patriarchy. What's the point of the fucking word? If we can somehow conflate enslaving women and keeping them out of the workforce with a country that is actively participating in it.
So again, this is a terrible argument. It is the definition. It means of the father, and men are basically in charge of things.
When people say patriarchy, they're not referring to. Do you think the United States is a patriarchy? Are you agreeing with the feminists now? It's like, oh, it's a patriarchy because the majority of men are in the government.
No,
it's a patriarchy because
we're talking
Mexico,
about institutions.
Of men.
No,
and a majority of men run the government, and
what we're talking about
is a patriarchy.
Gentlemen, I'm going to kindly ask. Hold on,
power.
pardon me for just a moment, Andrew. I'm just going to kindly remind you if we could stop interrupting one another and talking over each other, because it is poor form for the viewers, and I know they want to hear both of you.
I'm fine with you timing it. I don't think that this guy can actually help himself. He has to. He doesn't know how to form arguments, so he interrupts me in the middle of giving him a counter argument for the thing he just asked. What he's saying here, so that you guys know, he just refuted himself. He's like, how can you say these things are both the same thing, even though there's different degrees? And I point out the height difference. He says the same thing. Those different degrees, right? They're both still men. And they're both still patriarchal societies. We're talking about institutional power coming from men. It is the case in Afghanistan. That is the case. It is the case in China. That's the case. Can it take completely different forms? Sure. But it is the case. In the United States and Western nations, institutional power is not held by men anymore. Institutional power, I would make the argument that women have tons and oodles and fucking boodles of it, including buyer power inside of the market. So ultimately, no, this would not be considered any sort of traditional patriarchy, at least not anymore. Neither would any Western nation. But yeah, China definitely would be. And Afghanistan definitely would be. How can you even refute that?
Because I'm not even sure you have a good metric for what a patriarchy is. If you think the U.S. isn't a patriarchy, but China is. By the way, you brought this up because you were talking about, well, America has refuted gender roles and allowed women to enter the workforce, and look how well they're doing. And you've refuted Wicks. If you think GDP is good, look, the West is refuting these gender roles. Well, look at China. China is refuting the gender roles of this nuclear family pro-natalist, men control everything. They're doing the same things as of the American society insofar as letting women into the workforce, letting women be politicians, letting women control capital. All these things that you said make America not a patriarchy, and somehow this is still a patriarchy. It doesn't refute the idea of supporting the gender roles to be good at having a good GDP or any of these other metrics, and it also is coinciding exactly with the USA metrics that you're using. I just don't understand how these things are
super bizarre argument, even though I was super crystal clear. It's about institutional authority power, institutional authority. Who has institutional authoritative power? In China, it's men. China, it's 100% men. Okay, the institutional authoritative power. You can have women who are politicians, even at the local level, even in your parliament. But the authority, the ultimate authority in China, it comes down to men. The ultimate authority in Afghanistan comes down to men. The ultimate authority here in the United States does not, especially in the type. Yeah, so we have a democracy, for instance. Yeah, I'm trying to expand. So we have a democracy here, for instance, where a woman's vote is equal to that of a man's vote. right? They have kabuki democracy. It's not even real democracy. They have a people's party, essentially. And that's what's going to get in. And it's going to be the men who decide who the fuck really get in there and who's loyal to the party and who isn't. And that's the way they do business there. And that's the way they've done business for years and years since they were commies. Afghanistan's going to be the same way. They can give you some kabuki theater, but ultimately the authority lies with the men. Is there anything about the definition of patriarchy now that's confusing you? What would it be?
Well, it seems interesting that it's like the ultimate authority where, yeah, I guess if I really narrow it down to these very specific politicians that make these specific decisions and ignore all of the other things that women do in the society that completely transform the economy, the family, and how everything else interacts with everything else. Yeah, I guess it's a patriarchy, but it's just an incredibly silly, stupid definition. And I think
that
America,
definition makes no sense.
Well, okay, the ultimate authority in most of the
deconstruct...
government, Supreme Court, is a majority man. The president's a man. Is this not a patriarchy? They're the ones who control it. What makes America not a patriarchy then?
Yeah, the fact that women have an equal vote to men. So it can't be definitionally a patriarchy. Yeah, it can't be a patriarchy. If you have equal political process with men, can't be a patriarchy. Can it?
Well, I don't know. It seems like a silly definition to me. Again, because now we're saying, well, I guess if women don't have the exact same equal vote in China, this is somehow now.
Can you tell me, sir, how this could be a patriarchy if women have the exact same political enfranchisement as men?
By your definition, it's not. I would say a patriarchy is when the men control the society in a dominant way and kind of.
How can the men control the society if women have equal enfranchisement?
Well, if men are making the ultimate decisions, if men are making the ultimate decisions about what happens in the country.
Ultimate decisions if
it's happening right now. The president outnumber the men.
Gentlemen,
here's the impossibility of your worldview. The impossibility here: women outnumber men. They outnumber men right here in the United States, and women are enfranchised with voting. They have the same amount of political power as everybody else. Because they have the same amount of political power as all of the men, and they outnumber them. It can't definitionally be a patriarchy because the authority is not centralized of the father from the men. In China, it is. In Afghanistan, it is. Do you have a fucking refutation? For the love of God, please give me one.
I just don't agree with the idea.
I just don't agree with it.
The only thing that makes a patriarchy is if the ultimate decision is by men, and if women have any say in that whatsoever, somehow it's not
a better definition of patriarchy.
I just think it's when women are like so disenfranchised to the point of being literal second-class citizens, and I don't think you can look at China and say, "Yeah, this is definitely a patriarchy," given all the freedoms that they have, all the autonomy they have over themselves. Well, this specific part of the government,
the way definition that backs that up.
It's so funny how you complain and bitch and moan about.
You were interrupting me too
all the fucking time. So can you give me a definition that I want him to be able to interrupt me for the record, Sarah. But if he's
go ahead. I want to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I want you to go ahead. If I say something stupid, go ahead and interrupt.
Well, can you just give me a backing definition? I'll take it.
I just think it's a place, where women are second class citizens. They have no say in how anything goes because they're second class citizens.
Kindly, the both of you. I love the back and forth. It's very entertaining. But again, it's not for me. It's for the audience. They want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no problem. So I just say this. Can you give me any definition which backs up what you're saying? Not as a second or third order definition, but as a first order definition that patriarchy means women are basically second class citizens. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question? I'm not even sure what you're asking me.
Yeah. I said a patriarchy is rule of the father where men have authority. Men are the primary authority. That's what patriarchy would be. You would probably agree with me that
authority mean?
Yeah. Well, you would agree with me that like if you had a queen, that would be a matriarchy. And if you had like a king, that would be a patriarchy. We'd probably agree, especially if it was rules of patrilineal versus matrilineal, like only women can be the queen, only men can be the king, right? That would be patriarchal of the father, from the father, which is what the rooted word means.
I don't think necessarily, especially if it was only kings that could only then be succeeded by kings. But if you had a royal family where a king can be succeeded by a queen, succeeded by a king, then I wouldn't call that a patriarchy or matriarchy.
That would not be patrilineal or matrilineal, would it? That would not be patrilineal.
Right, I'm saying, if it was exclusively patrilineal, matrilineal, like I guess maybe, but again, it also would depend then if you look at the society and say, hey, like what are the roles of men in the society? Are men also having this domain over women? Are women subjugated by the average in the average family by the man? Like that would be more patriarchal. But what if the woman was in charge of the gender roles and taking care of the household, but the man was the one making all of the laws? Like I would consider that like a little more matriarchal of the society because it actually has to do with what most of the people are actually dealing with. So again, this is all pointless because that would still be central authority. That would still be an authority of women or authority of men.
Both of them. Like, you're still
I mean,
making
there's
my
like it's
definition
so much more
for me.
nuanced to say that, oh well, this one
It's not that much
specific role,
nuance.
the ultimate decision of this specific role is the
Mhm.
dictator of what the entire society should be
Mhm.
called. I think this is very anti-intellectual, but whatever. It doesn't matter. The point of me bringing this
It's
up was to say,
anti-intellectual.
yeah, I believe it is, because you're trying to
The father
pigeonhole
for
everything into a
patriarchy is
singular definition. It's
anti-intellectual.
like, when men do this,
Mhm.
then patriarchy, and not, hey, like, what are the roles of women in the society, and like how much freedom do they have, and what do they operate, what way do
Yeah,
they
that's a
influence
threshold
the economy, what way
fallacy,
do
bro.
they influence
Bro.
what way do they influence the economy? And again, if you've asked fucking anyone who studies
Mhm.
anything about, hey, do you think that Afghanistan
Yeah.
and fucking China are the same in the way that they dictate men and women's gender roles, they would laugh you out of the fucking room, because you're fucking stupid if you think these are both patriarchies in the same sense. It makes the word fucking useless. So yeah, technically, if you say, well, men make the ultimate decision, great, cool. Like, I can just fucking obfuscate every definition to that degree of absurdity, and it's a useless conversation. And the whole point of why I brought up this Chinese thing was to talk about something completely different. So I'm annoyed that we're still stuck on this.
I wonder how it is that you can take the Destiny mannerism of talking really fast, but be terrible at making any points when you do it. You literally just agreed with my definition, gave me no better counter definition for this. What you did actually was you used another fallacy, you used threshold fallacy. This is like this. If I say to you, when exactly does sand become glass? Name the exact precise moment.
Yeah,
You
it's
couldn't.
Loki's wager. I
Yeah, you
understand what
couldn't.
this is.
Nobody can. But you don't need to. It's not necessary, and it's actually a fallacious form of argumentation. All you need to do instead is we can put out some fairly specific criteria, which would be agreed to express and explain a phenomenon. In this case, we're trying to express and explain, not in an anti-intellectual, but in an intellectual fashion, the phenomenon of who's in charge of shit around here. And we have these cool words for that. Patriarchy is a cool word for that, and matriarchy is a cool word for that. And there's a great word.
Shit. All the
Can I finish?
25% of women in the government don't matter. The women who are CEOs of companies don't matter.
Literally didn't interrupt you. Didn't interrupt you.
You interrupt me all the time.
So I didn't interrupt you. I let you go through the whole thing.
Okay.
I let you go through the whole thing.
All right,
So
all right.
so we have these great descriptors for these phenomena. In this case, patriarchy, matriarchy, where we're just expressing a phenomenon of who the fuck's in charge around here. Who's ultimately the fuck in charge around here, and whoever that's based around, you're going to consider that a matriarchy or a patriarchy. Instead, what you did is you devolved the argument even worse, because you were like, anybody who's an intellectual, they would look at Afghanistan and China and clearly say they're different forms of patriarchy, which I already agreed to. Yes, they're different forms of patriarchy, but they are both still a fucking patriarchy, dude.
Yeah, by your definition, that's so fucking.
Give me a counter definition that makes more
if a
sense.
man is the ultimate, if I talk about, you can say this is not accurate enough because it doesn't say, hey, a man makes the ultimate decision. But if I say, hey, when women are subjected to a degree in which they don't really have any agency in the society, I would call that a patriarchy. Now you can say that's too vague, and maybe it's just as vague.
Then they wouldn't have authority.
But, huh?
Then they wouldn't have authority. So that would be my definition.
And they wouldn't have authority. Okay,
Yeah,
so in
if
China, where they do have a lot of
agency.
authority in a lot of different places, somehow this is still a patriarchy, right? I would disagree. I think that's a stupid fucking definition.
Okay,
but it doesn't
so-
fucking matter, because what we're talking about is
So what
gender
is
roles, and we
China
can't
then?
fucking
It's a
stay on that.
matriarchy?
No, it's just a fucking, like, it's a society. I'm not saying it
It's
must
a
be one or
society.
the other.
Brilliant answer.
It doesn't.
It's
There's
a
no
society.
dichotomy between patriarchy and matriarchy. It's like it's either this
Oh.
or this, and if it's not one of those two things, then you can't.
Then what
define
is it? Then what is it?
What do you want me to say? Like it's a self.
If it's not a patriarchy, and it's not a matriarchy, what is it?
What is
What is it? Yeah.
Are those the only
Is it
two
an
options?
egalitarian state?
Are
Like,
tho-
what
are
is
those
it?
The only two options.
I think
Now
ultimately.
you're doing a threshold fallacy.
No,
right?
no. I literally
Yeah,
said
it must be one or other the others.
No, no, that's not a threshold fallacy. Actually, this is logical. This
Can
is
it only
logical.
be these two things?
Yeah,
Can
well,
is every
actually-
society either? Well, actually, by your definition,
Yeah,
every society either is or is not a
definitionally,
patriarchy, and
it's
the other
always
one is a
going to
matriarchy,
be.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So here, let's just step through it logically, right?
You don't have
So
to fucking
a thing can
do this
only
stupid
be
shit.
a thing can only be what it is. Now we have men and women. We only have two things here. Two things: men or women. Only one can be in charge, or both can be in charge at the same time. Right? Both can be in
Okay.
charge at the same time at
So
equal levels. Hang on.
What
At
is
equal levels.
of in charge?
I don't know. You have exactly the same amount of authority across the board.
Okay, so does that exist anywhere in any society?
I think that there's nations.
With
Yeah,
exactly
I
the
think
same,
it does.
exactly 50-50, perfectly exactly.
If you
right?
have direct political enfranchisement where
Mhm.
everybody has the same
So, like,
exact quality
having
for
a role in the
votes,
government, maybe.
everybody who has the same quality, well, who votes in the government? It's going to be those same people who are enfranchised. So if that is the case, and by the way, if you use that argument, then that would make the United States a matriarchy because more women can vote than men.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think these
Silly.
definitions are super silly, but whatever. It doesn't matter. The point
Even
that
though
we're
you
talking
haven't
about
given me a
gender-
counter definition. Can you give me the counter
I gave
definition
you
now?
one and you don't like it, and I don't
Give it
like
to
your
me again.
definition, and we can
Give me
argue
a-
all
give
day
me-
about
give
these.
me the
I don't want
patriarchy
to.
definition.
You know, I refuse.
What do you mean you don't want to? I just
Because
gave
like
you.
one of you
It's your
fucking
turn.
bitched
It's
and
your
moaned about
turn.
it. It's like, well, look at
Your
this.
turn.
Accurate ultimate authority
Gentlemen,
definition. It's fucking retarded.
gentlemen.
I don't
Give
wanna
me the
defend with
counter
this. Well,
definition.
my counter definition was a society in which women have little to no agency or control over anything in society. And I think that you can call that vague. And I'm saying, yeah, I think that China, women have lots of fucking agency. They work in plenty of different roles. There's CEOs that are women. There's women in the government. And you'll say, well, they don't have the ultimate authority. And that's not my definition. So, okay, you don't accept my definition. Why are we still talking about it?
Well, because your definition actually is bizarre to me.
Okay,
When you're
that's
discussing-
cool. It's irrelevant to the
Well,
debate topic.
no,
You can
no,
fucking
semantics are
ponder
super
on this.
important to
I think it's
debates.
bizarre you think women
Why
shouldn't
are you
vote. I think
cutting
it's
in?
bizarre
Why
that
are you
you
cutting
call
in?
yourself
Cutting
like
in,
it because
Soy, let him
you're gonna
go.
fucking filibuster again. It's so
Right,
boring.
You're
It's
How
all
can I
not a debate
filibuster
topic.
when it's your argument, bro?
Gentlemen, you're
God.
both filibustering. You're both interrupting. I love you both so dearly, but shut the fuck up and listen, okay? Andrew, if you'd like to go ahead, and then Soy after him.
Yeah, so semantics are really important to debate, so we know what the hell we're talking about. One thing you guys hate to do is you hate narrowing in and being super precise when it comes to semantics because it's in the vagary that you attempt to make your arguments rather than with precision. So I want to know from you concisely, what is a fucking patriarchy, dude?
I don't know. Do you want to Google one for you? Like you Googled me on my
Yes, of course.
Okay,
You're
cool.
in fact, you
Google.
should. You should literally.
All right. A system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Do you think China fits this definition?
Yes.
Do you think that women are largely excluded when they are 25%
From
of the entire government?
that's largely excluded, sure.
Okay, do you think
Yes.
men why largely excluded when they make up a
Yes.
quarter? It's the same as America, though. America has about that much women in government. Why do you think that's largely excluding?
Okay, so when you're talking about political tiers in America, I'm going to explain.
Go
When you're
ahead, I'm
talking about
laughing.
when you're talking about political tiers inside of the United States,
Mhm.
you have equal enfranchisement, which excludes no women. All women can vote for the politicians of their choosing. You can't
Okay.
get mad at them because they vote in men. That's fucking stupid.
I'm not mad at them.
Yeah, so definitionally, you just refuted yourself. You're like,
No,
wait a
definitionally,
second, wait a second.
definitionally, I'm saying when
Wait a
women
second,
are
Drew,
excluded
hang
from
on,
government,
my
you said
turn. Let me refute the
75% men
argument.
in government
Let me
is
refute the
excluding a
argument.
majority of women. Now
Put
you're talking
by
about who and
who?
who cannot
Put
vote.
there
This is a
by
completely different
who?
thing. A majority
who?
a majority of men in China are not in government. A majority of women in China aren't in government. But
Put
somehow
there by
25%
who?
participation. It doesn't matter if men elected all the women. Is that like somehow like excluding it from being a patriarchy?
Yeah, if it were the case, let us assume for a moment that men exclusively had the right to vote and women had no right to vote, but under some fucking logical craziness, they voted in all women, right? They still hold the ultimate authority because they can vote all the women out. The problem with your argument when it comes to authority is you're like, well, I definitionally kind of agree with you, but how do you explain the fact that
Wait,
the
so is
political
America
hang on, bro. Let me
majority of
finish.
women can
Let me
vote all the
finish.
men
Let me
out?
finish. Then you can jump in. The only argument that you have here is, wait a second, they have equal rates of women in the government. Okay, but who's voting for these politicians in the United States? Women have equal enfranchisement when it comes to the vote. They're voting in men. That doesn't make this a patriarchy. That's absurd.